Hey guys, Adam Manley here, Business Development Manager at Good Life Property Management. Today we're going to be learning a little bit about and talking about Section 8, kind of some of the things you're going to need to know about and some of the frequently asked questions we get about the program. So let's start with what is Section 8. Section 8 is a government-backed program that allows prospects that qualify and are approved for the program to be able to rent properties throughout the greater San Diego area. Typically, the government will cover about 70% of the rent for the property, leaving the tenant to be responsible for the other 30%. What is the new ruling for housing assistance? So back in the summer of 2018, the City Council voted that we can no longer, as property managers or landlords, discriminate against those who have Section 8 vouchers as a form of housing income. So what that essentially means to you is that you need to open the property up to any Section 8 applicants as well. And you would no longer be allowed to tell them that the property does not accept Section 8 or that you can't show them the property because you don't allow Section 8. Essentially, you would have to treat them as any other applicant and include the voucher as part of their housing income, just like someone with a standard, paycheck or money in the bank. So one of the most commonly asked questions we're getting about the Section 8 program is, will the Housing Commission tell you what you can rent your house out for? So the answer is really yes and no. Ultimately, as the owner of the property, you are still going to be responsible for pricing your own property, but the Housing Commission will give you a recommended rent range based on their own analysis. And again, that's just going to be up to you whether or not to accept that or adjust that based on your own experience with your own property. The other thing to consider also is that if you're planning on increasing the rent with a tenant that's on Section 8, you do need to give them 60-day notice and submit an application to the Housing Commission about your intent to raise the rent at that particular property. The other thing to keep in mind also is that you can't raise the rent for a non-Section 8 tenant more than you could for a tenant that was on Section 8 just to, let's say, get them out of the property, for example. Another really commonly asked question we're getting is, how do I get paid? So the Housing Commission will direct deposit their portion of the check directly into your bank account on the due date of the rent. The rest from the tenant's portion will be collected through whatever standard forms of rent that you accept, whether that be check or if you have some type of online portal for the tenant to access, and you'll just collect that as normal. If the rent is late, you can still enforce normal late penalties as per your lease agreement with the tenant, and everything stays the same in that regard. Another great question is, can I ask for a security deposit? And again, the short answer is yes. Section 8 tenants are just going to be like every other tenant, so you can ask a normal security deposit amount. Generally, Good Life, we require equal to about 1 month's rent. One thing to keep in mind is that you cannot charge a Section 8 tenant more in a security deposit just because they are using the voucher as part of their income. So something good to keep in mind there. Do the Section 8 vouchers expire? That's another really great question. And again, the short answer is no, they don't. The tenants can essentially remain on this program indefinitely as long as they are following the rules outlined by the Housing Commission and all of the terms of the lease agreement. They can, if they start, if they get a really great job and start making sufficient income, they can leave the program at that point, but as long as they're following those things that I mentioned, they can stay on the program indefinitely. A lot of landlords are wondering if tenants on Section 8 can be evicted, and just like any other tenant, you can move forward with the eviction process starting with the 3-day notice once the rent payment is delinquent. The only caveat here is you do also need to notify the Housing Commission of your intent to start the unlawful detainer process if you plan on evicting a tenant under the Section 8 voucher program. There is also an inspection process as part of the Section 8 voucher program, and it starts with an initial inspection. With this, a representative from the Housing Commission will come out to your property and inspect it, make sure it is habitable and safe for the incoming tenant. If your home fails this inspection, you have 30 days to repair or fix whatever was identified in that inspection, or else they have to come back and start that process again. There's also a yearly inspection in the property where the member from the Housing Commission will come back to just try and keep up with some of those things that are related to habitability and make sure that the property is operating in the condition that it should be. Those are just a few of the really good questions and answers that we've been talking about with regards to Section 8, but we have a ton of great information on the subject. So if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our blogs.